I was blessed to speak to a lady who gave me information about my grandmother many times, or about my mother and some of their friends. But I'd like to thank her for not only being a friend of me and for caring about my mother and staying in contact. No matter where my mother was in this world, she let my mother stay up on Port Norris. She never let her lose her contact. And that's Carol and Jim Robbins. I'd like to thank them for putting my grandmother and mother in to be named a legend. It's really an honor. Okay, I was talking, and I know they're not the first necessarily lady entrepreneurs in Port Norris, but they were two of the few. And grandmother sort of put money to whatever and had to put the market together because it was a seafood mart. My grandmother suddenly died, and my grandfather suddenly died April 1950, leaving grandmom a 50-year-old widow. Thank goodness there were no children, but my mother was next door, and she had worked part-time with them. And a couple years later, she became a single mom, so they sort of just picked it up, and they went on, and they made it into a successful business. It was nice because it was something that I could do. I could be there with her no matter what was going on. I knew everybody in town and everybody knew me. And if I went downtown and anything happened that wasn't right, it got home before I did. And the switch was waiting, as a lot of you understand. Those were the days when the parents really kept their thumb on you, and we needed it. It was good though, because everything was picket fences, white houses, clean. You could walk anywhere you wanted to in that town. Everybody knew you, they waved, they spoke. And it wasn't just because I was in the store and saw everybody's beautiful faces when they came and went. It was the way the town was. Like he said about Mr. Bradway, everybody loved everybody, cared about everybody, and they helped everybody. I can remember there was a lady who was going to be retiring in a few years. My grandmother took her and gave her a job. The woman never claimed a paycheck from my grandmother, but my grandmother paid into Social Security so that when she retired, she had something to draw the rest of her life. And I always admired my grandmother for doing that. She didn't have to, but she, like John, saw a need and she stepped up and did it. And there was a couple other people that I saw her help, and I wouldn't say who or what because I think too many people in here probably wouldn't know them, because we all know everybody in Port Norris. Even the new families now, I don't know many of them, but we all knew each other. And anything I might say something. But I know she carried 2 books. She carried the regular ledger that she did every night. Mother closed every night. They each only had 1 day off, and it was separate days, so the other one could be there to take care of that store, because the people in town needed them. And they relied on them. And in the middle of the night, if they needed something, they came, knocked on the door, they got it. That's just the way it was. You took care of each other. There was no questions asked what the problem was. Did you have money? You got it. And if you could pay for it later, you did. If you didn't, that was okay too. Because it was given with love, not just for money. And I respected both of them for that. They were really great women. They were great role models for me. They were great role models for other girls in the town itself. We had one customer, funny joke. I was looking at one of my snapshot books that I just purchased, and there was a thing about Reverend David Neggy in there. He'd come into the store, and he never got away from the house without one of the 5 children. And when he would come in, he wanted to get M&Ms. He loved chocolate M&Ms. He was just hooked on them. And he would have to come in and ask for P's and Q's, R's and P's, T's and Z's, everything imaginable but M&M. And Mom would put them in a little poke, a little bag, and put it in the bottom of the big bag, and it went home with him. And he was the one got to the bag before anybody else did. He would take them up in his study, and he would eat them up there. The kids had their own bags, so. But that was something I remembered when I looked at his article on there. He's brought to the church for the 4th year, and I remembered him with his P's and Q's. I don't know much about the women when it comes to the Daughters of America. Would you get me a tissue, please? It's on the table. The Daughters of America, or the Grange, because I didn't belong. But I brought a few pictures, and I brought a couple things that I thought Carol and the Historical Society might like to have, that were pictures from the past. And when you spoke about the monument for the war, the boys that went to war and stuff, Grandma was one of the 4 women that was at the dedication, and I happened to bring that picture with me. And her and, I'm trying to think of the other 3 ladies now. I just went blank. But there are 3 other ladies there, and I'm sure Carol knows them and others do. But it was quite an honor, because at that time she had 4 sons all serving in the military at the same time. And it was quite an honor. And like you spoke, so many people, it's not unusual to be able to stand up here and say anything about any of the legends they've done so far, and probably all of them that they will do, gave and gave and gave to their town, their community, their family, because that whole town was a family. It wasn't just people living in an area. And it has stayed that way with a lot of them. There are new people, new faces, but the old ones still get together and they still see each other and never miss saying hi or how are you or contacting you. Carol writes me, and I know sometimes it's difficult, and I really appreciate it. But stay in contact with everybody, because we're going to miss all these people one day. And thank you for allowing me to come and talk about 2 of my favorite people. God bless.